Hi, my name is Mari Bowie. I'm an attorney at the Nieves law firm, and today I'm going to chat with you about how to terminate a restraining order in the state of California. There are 4 restraining orders in the state of California. There are work violence protection orders, elder abuse restraining orders, civil harassment restraining orders, and domestic violence restraining orders. The most common restraining orders are going to be civil harassment restraining orders and domestic violence restraining orders. Now, because these are injunctions necessarily or equitable reliefs, there are very specific ways to terminate a restraining order in the state of California. Most of them are going to be the same regardless of the restraining order that you file. There are 3 main principles that you have to prove to the judge in order to terminate. Now, 1, if you are the person that petitioned and got a restraining order and you are the protected party, then you are able to file to terminate the restraining order. It's a fairly simple process if the petitioner is requesting the termination, because it's the petitioner who requested the relief in the first place. So if they're saying they don't need it anymore, boom, super easy. While the other side is, if you're the respondent and you're petitioning to terminate a restraining order, it's significantly more difficult, but not impossible. Now, the first thing that you would have to prove to the judge is 1, either change circumstance or a material change in the facts of the case, right? So 1, you have to prove you moved away, you don't talk to that party, anything like that. So like in a civil harassment restraining order, if you are neighbors and you have a restraining order and then you proved you moved states, you might be able to petition because based off the change in the facts, they don't have a risk of harm anymore. Or with the domestic violence restraining order, if you move away, you might not have that risk of harm. Or if your kids are past a certain age, you might not have that risk of harm anymore. So those are ways that you can request it based off of changed circumstances. Now, that's not always super convincing to a judge, but it's super helpful if you can prove a material change in the facts. The other way that you can do it is by a change in the law. If the law has changed that basically states that maybe the abuse that you were found to be abusive under, or the harassment that you've done is actually not harassment, because of that change in the law, you may be able to request to terminate the restraining order because there's a material change in the law, or there's just a change in the law and it's not applicable to you anymore. And because of that change in the law, you shouldn't have this restraining order. And the last way is it's a kind of catch-all provision, is if the interest of justice basically qualifies you for a termination. There's multiple ways to determine this, right? If you're of good conduct, if you have a new job, if you've been on the straight and narrow, you were going through mental health issues during the time. Many different ways that the interest of justice argument can work in your favor. It kind of just depends on the circumstance, but that interest of justice is kind of the catch-all provision for judges to allow that equitable relief to you. Now, terminating a restraining order is incredibly difficult. I recommend getting an attorney to do so because there are very specific instructions, and judges are not inclined to terminate a restraining order just because you don't like it or just because you're aggrieved, because most of the time when people lose, they obviously want to keep fighting. So judges are going to be very skeptical about terminating or modifying a restraining order. Therefore, you need to make sure that you meet one of these specific requirements to terminate your restraining order, and that you have an attorney to help you. If you are looking to terminate a restraining order and you need help doing so, please contact the Nieves law firm and see how we can help you.